Hi, I am Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching Podcast with Pratim, presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center, or IRCC. In this episode, we will discuss about India's border security. As you are aware, we are in a difficult neighborhood with at least four wars behind us in last 77 years. The region is extremely volatile and geopolitically sensitive. Over the last 50 years, we have seen repeated incidents of civil wars, violent unrest, and terror attacks across the neighborhood. Unfortunately, such things have a fallout on India's internal security. The geopolitical tension is rising and will rise in the foreseeable future. It is therefore important to ensure security on India's 15,000 plus kilometer land border and 7,000 plus kilometer long maritime border. To discuss this, I have with me Mr. Sanjiv Krishan Sood. He is a retired Additional Director General
Good
of the.
evening.
Welcome, sir. Mr. Sood is a retired Additional Director General of the Border Security Force. He has field experience across India's land boundary. He is a well-known expert on border security and speaks on the subject on national media. He also authored a book on the subject. Sir, it is nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Sir, all Indian borders are not same in terms of geography, culture, ground realities. On a global scale, how difficult is it to manage Indian borders? I would also expect you to comment on the maritime borders. How do you rank different land borders in terms of difficulties or growing difficulties? Over to you, sir.
As you said, we have very different climatic terrain, population configuration all over our borders. Punjab is well populated right up to the border is completely fenced except for the riverine area in Gurdaspur and Firozpur areas. Rajasthan is desert terrain, shifting sand dunes, and this also is fenced. Gujarat has its own peculiarities with uh, sort of what is it called, run of Kutch and all those things, marshy conditions. So, but less populated. Similarly, Rajasthan also is less populated. So these are differing. They might have temperatures going up to 50, 55 degrees during summers. And Punjab, you might have temperatures going down to zero, even minus at nights during winter season. Insofar as operational situation is concerned, the Punjab border is prone to, all these borders are prone to smuggling of drugs and infiltration by militants supported by Pakistan security forces, but more so in Punjab and in Jammu international border. And they are adopting newer and newer techniques like the tunnels, like the drones, etc. Rajasthan, to a lesser extent, also is prone to this kind of tactics by the infiltrators. However, Gujarat is slightly different. It is not all that crime prone, except that we are now having to intercept certain consignments of drugs, etc. Insofar as Bangladesh is concerned, it is around 4,096 kilometers of borders all along, and the close cultural and family ties and the open borders till about early 2000 have ensured that the border remains porous. Thereafter, the fencing came up, and fence has created some sort of restrictions on movement, of to and fro movement, but all the same, it remains porous because of the uh, as I said, close familiar ties that remain, and fence can be cut at any place. The fence, and besides that, the out of the almost, I mean, as I said, 4,096 kilometers, the 25% or slightly less than that remains unfenced, mainly because it cannot be fenced, mainly because it is riverine area. So that, and then the operationally it is prone to cattle smuggling, gold smuggling, import of import meaning clandestine import of foreign fake foreign currency, etc. The maritime borders, as you know, are with the Coast Guard. BSF doesn't have much to do with it. Coast Guard has its own guarding the borders. The entire 7,500 kilometers of coastal borders are guarded by them. And as we go north, the Bhutan and Nepal borders are open borders.
Open
Population
borders.
right up to the zero line, and we have friendship treaties with both of them, both of these nations, and so we allow their nationals to come in, and they all our nationals can also go in without any documentation from the authorized uh, crossing points. The crime along those borders are again some drugs, some cattle, and other
Gold.
minor things. The China border remains difficult because it is not a designated border. It is not a defined border area. The McMahon line that was uh, thought to be the border since early last century is not recognized by China. Similarly, on LC,
And it
the
is it
since
is high mountain. China border is
it
high
is high
mountain.
mountain. The China's border is high mountains, and so difficult terrain. It is mainly guarded by the Indian Army and also ITBP. The line of control is along Pakistan, again is prone to trans-border firing. BSF is deployed there, but in small numbers, under the operational command of Indian Army. Myanmar is 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 a is a border, 1,600 odd kilometers of borders, which is open border. We had a free movement regime with them, wherein the tribals could come up to 16 kilometers and dispose of their headload of goods in each other's countries. But that has now been stopped. The guarding of Myanmar to what BSF does on BSF or SSB even does on the Indo-Nepal, Indo-Bangladesh, Indo-Bhutan, and Indo-Pakistan border. It is the Assam Rifles operates on these borders on information basis mostly, or long range patrols they carry out. So that border remains mainly unguarded, as is done along the other borders. Insofar as difficulty is concerned, operationally, I think the is extremely difficult because of the nature of crime, because of high population density, and because of very close cooperation between the Indian criminals and the Bangladeshi criminals. So operationally, it remains the most difficult. Terrain-wise, it may not be as difficult. Terrain-wise, maybe Rajasthan is very difficult. Maybe the hilly borders of along the line of control are very difficult. Yes,
Okay.
Mizoram, where which is guarded by BSF. Part of it is western part is guarded by BSF. Is difficult terrain, hilly, mountainous, as like along the India-Myanmar border. So that is terrain-wise, it is extremely difficult. Operationally, those borders are not very difficult.
Okay, I'll come back to Bangladesh specifically later in this discussion. Bangladesh border is unique in terms of the Well, Pakistan border is also unique. You have a desert, you have high mountains. But Bangladesh border has a speciality in terms of marshy land and rivers, which is a completely different ball game, just like high mountains. So, sir, I just have a quick question. Why, I can understand ITBP. They are to guard the high mountain areas. I can also understand why army is there on certain parts of the border in the north. But why so many agencies, Assam Rifles, BSF, SSB, why so many agencies? Why not an unified agency? I mean, maritime, okay, you have to be a coast guard. That's a different issue.
Right. So, to answer your question, let us go back to the Kargil War. After the Kargil War, there was a committee of which is called Group of Ministers, which was set up to assess the internal and external security of the country. That the external security, that is the border security, needs more attention. And they said that there should be more specialization in guarding the borders. And therefore, one of the recommendations of the committee was one border, one force. So, and ITBP and BSF existed before the Kargil War. So BSF had its mandated role of guarding India, Pakistan, and India, Pakistan initially, and after 71, India, Pakistan, and India, Bangladesh border. The ITBP was designated to guard India Tibet border. And but after 1999, after 2001, when the group of ministers report was implemented, then the SSB, which was in its previous avatar, was also called SSB, but except that it was Special Service Bureau. Now it is Sashastra Seema Bal. So they were converted, SSB was converted into an armed SSB to guard the India, Nepal and India, Bhutan border. Assam Rifles, which was the internal security force of the Northeast, was given an additional responsibility to guard India-Myanmar border. So that is the background to it. And I think I tend to agree with the arrangement, because otherwise guarding the entire 15,000 kilometers of land borders of India by one force and by one set of commanders will become very unwieldy. The force will become very unwieldy. It will become very difficult to manage. As I discussed earlier, the operational environment, the terrain in every area differs. The border management techniques along Nepal-Bhutan border cannot perhaps be applied Pakistan border or India-Bangladesh border. So I think the scheme of things which has been put in place perhaps is correct. Perhaps, why perhaps? I totally agree with this. And I think this is a good arrangement to have different border guarding forces to guard different borders.
Okay. Do you think that going forward we have need for one force on Pakistan side and one force on Bangladesh side?
That can be thought of, but then the arrangement has been working so far well with the rotation director of the BSF. This arrangement has been working. It was thought of earlier that the units will remain and troops will move, but then that kills the regimentation. I mean, and then if we keep doing that, the forces will become area specific and they'll develop vested interests. So
Exactly.
that also has to be avoided, and the national character of the has to be retained. One one argument could be that operational situation along India-Bangladesh border vastly differs from India-Pakistan border. So they may make up a case for having separate border guarding forces. But so far the arrangement has worked very well because the BSF has taken care to ensure that the troops, whenever they are moved and inducted into a different area, are put through a proper orientation
Right.
area.
I fully agree your point on vested interests. In fact, right or wrong, there are arguments against Assam Rifle. They're managing a very specific stretch of border. So, sir, India always had the focus on Pakistan border, or overall we had have a focus on Pakistan from the word go. And as we discussed, China border is a completely different ballgame. We recently stepped up gas on creating the right infrastructure, all-weather infrastructure connectivity to China border. However, it is perceived that things were a little relaxed on the east. As you said that we had a free movement regime with Myanmar. Now we recently decided to fence that border. Is the threat perception rising on the east, and to what extent? I would also like you to answer that. To what extent we could fortify our borders since the Kargil war, in your assessment?
See, I think our borders are, especially the India-Pakistan, India-Bangladesh, and Nepal-Bhutan borders, are adequately guarded. It is only the Myanmar border which does not have a permanent deployment of forces along or near the borders. So that may need strengthening up. I'll certain questions emanating from your statement, like the FMR and fencing of Myanmar border. Now, free movement regime along the Myanmar border was something which was extremely beneficial to the local population. See, with very limited infrastructure availability in those areas, the remote border people were not able to dispose of their local produce to any other places. So free movement regime, which was initially conceptualized, initially allowed by the then Burma government, and later reciprocated by in late 40s, continued. And in 2018, we reduced the kilometer from 32 kilometers to 16 kilometers. So if FMR, firstly, it is not practically possible to implement FMR. One can implement stoppage of FMR. It can be implemented from the authorized crossing points, all right. But there are hundreds of weight on the border or along the border all over the 1600 kilometers of India-Myanmar border. As I was listening to a conversation the other day between the DG and ex-DG of Assam Rifles, there's a village which is located on the border, and the village sarpanch has a house whose one bedroom is in India and the other one is in Myanmar. So under those circumstances, it is extremely difficult
two wives from either side.
Enforce. Or two wives, all right.
Two wives from either side.
Yeah. So it is extremely difficult to ensure stoppage of FMR because locals have to dispose of their perishable, and those are perishable goods. They local produce, some vegetables, some fish, some other products, which if they are not disposed of early, they'll perish. And this will put the local tribals to further difficulty. And it will ruin the economy of the border areas of Myanmar. On one hand, we are devising systems like border huts, also along India Bangladesh border. And on other hand, we are trying to we have given orders to stop FMR. So that those two policy steps are contradictory in my view to each other. And then fencing the border, uh, extremely difficult. See, 4,000 kilometers of borders along Bangladesh in normal terrain. It has taken almost 25 years to fence. That 1,600 kilometers of India Myanmar border in that kind of terrain will take how much time? I'm sure it will not take anything less than 10 to, and then you have to think of the local terrain, the ecology. You have to fetch up the stores to construct the fence in those areas. You have to therefore create a motorable road to fetch up those stores. And then any obstacle which is placed has its worth only if it is properly guarded by troops day in and day out. So, which will mean ultimately setting up BOPs in those areas, which means for 1,600 kilometers, you will have to raise several new battalions of Assam Rifles or some other border guarding forces that one may think of. So those are the difficult problems. And
So
insofar
if we don't, sir, sorry for disturbing you. Uh,
huh, huh,
I've been to Myanmar border in many places in Mizoram and Manipur. Now, the point here is that we all know that, I mean, leave aside the issue of this influx and all these things. I'm talking even before that, before the current disturbances, when Myanmar was growing. So the whole of Mizoram is, every other household staff, the support staff is basically from Myanmar. And people can cross over. And the biggest trade was those, the drugs, particularly the yaba. Okay. So you can just put, some small 50, 60 tablets in the pocket and come over, right? And arms were coming in from that side. Okay. Now, point is that I fully appreciate your point about the fencing and etc. free movement, but how can we stop the nuisance? What kind of, what are the solutions? Can we introduce technologies? Can we introduce other barriers? It is not possible, it may not be given the current situation of Myanmar. The free border has become a liability in some cases. Over to you, sir.
yeah. So as I said, uh, either you go ahead with the decision, may not happen in next 20 years, the completion of the fence, and deploy troops. And then the other thing is, the other thing could be deploy troops at choke points from where the people have to converge to go to a bigger town and then have checks and balances in those areas. So that could be one. The other could be develop intelligence sources and keep get movement of drugs and all. And of course, technology, some kind of technology will have to be introduced in those areas. I'm not sure, I'm not too sure what kind of technology will work in that kind of terrain full of hills and foliage. People will have to think of some arrangements in those areas. Insofar as influx is concerned, I don't know. The problem is only in Manipur. See, there are four other states.
Mizoram also officially has a lot of refugees.
Refugees, but there are no problems in those areas. So attributing the Manipur problem to influx of illegal infiltrators perhaps is not a correct assessment of the situation. Uh, and they are illegal immigrants because we have not signed refugee protocols, NHRC
Right.
or whatever. We address everyone who is trying to enter India, even for refuge, as illegal entrant. So those are the things. I'm not too sure what kind of technology would be effective in those areas.
Just
Maybe
asking. Just asking.
handheld handheld thermal images which can penetrate the foliage would perhaps or some other bigger devices could. Yeah, you were asking something.
Yeah, so nowadays you have a whole lot of solutions of drones and etc. Which instead of the, I'm just asking from a simple point of view that in the modern warfare it is not ground force who move around. It is technology. So definitely there should be technology solutions. Or just asking that even I mean say as simple thing as drones. So are you equipped adequately with drones and etc.?
We have a few drones on the western border. I think drone is not our should be our concern. Should be the concern of BSF. Acquiring anti-drone technology should be a
Right,
bigger concern
right.
because Pakistanis are sending drugs and weapon and ammunition through these drones. So we need to tackle the drones which are incoming. Presently, we have only visual thing. We also have LMGs. We have put in place certain passive drone detection devices which work on radio frequency and so. But then the density of these equipment needs to be increased. We have to, as an organization, the border security force has to focus on this kind of technology which tackles the drones coming from across. The border security force also has to develop a technology which counters their tactics of tunnels. We have been experimenting with some technology, but that
Isn't
has
it
not
possible with thermal imaging? It's possible.
not the tunnels which are dug say 25 feet below the surface. So there has to be. I'm not exactly recalling the name, but some technology is being tried in certain areas in small portions in Jammu sector, and hopefully once the trials succeed, there'll be. And then we are also technological solution to this by digging a trench, digging a wide trench, wide and deep trench, and filling it with water, so that if they try to go below that, it'll become very low, and then the surface is likely to cave in with water uh, into the tunnel that they are trying to do. So one method that is it is being tried in Jammu. The other method, we have a very prominent
Sir,
mining
having
institute in.
spoken to you, since
Yeah.
we are approaching the end of the podcast, so uh, I have a feeling that you are not, whether I don't know whether you are adequately resourced on technology front or whether there is adequate focus on technology front uh, to just stuff yourself up with the latest gears and etc. Adequate experiments. I mean, have there been studies to just give you
I
the.
mean, just to put it in one sentence, that we are not equipped with modern technology to tackle these problems. We are progressing, but then it will take a lot of time. The problem is that as an organization, we do not have a policy planning or cell or something which studies the futuristic scenarios and tries to get solutions for that, try to sort of brainstorm solutions for those futuristic solutions. So the organization, either within the organization or within the MHA, there has to be a dedicated policy planning cell or a faculty of studies kind of thing, which assesses the futuristic requirement of the border guarding forces and takes action according to those assessments.
Okay.